Hello everybody, and welcome to another puzzle challenge video with ChessUniversity.com. This is Ryan Murphy, and I'm presenting a video here where it's white to play and win at the start. It's our puzzle for the day. It's another intermediate difficulty puzzle, the last of its kind for the week. And yeah, if you spot it and you think you got the solution, you can head on over to the link in the YouTube description, check out the official post, leave a comment there, and if you get the right answer before we put up the solution, you can get rewards points on ChessUniversity.com. This game comes to us from the PNWCC Online Blitz tournament played back in March on chess.com, and it's a game between Wang and Wu, 2400 player, and I think a pretty strong junior player. And it's about to be move 18 of the game for White. White wins in just a couple more moves, and we'll quickly take a look at how this developed from the opening. Looks like White got a very big attack very early. So this one began as an e4, e5 opening. This was a Scotch. And in particular a Scotch gambit. That's where instead of taking this pawn immediately, this would be the Scotch game, where black has a variety of options. Probably the best one is knight f6, but bishop moves are also fairly common. Bishop c4 says that this pawn can be taken back at a later time, and white's trying to prioritize development and pressure against f7, and quickly getting castles as well. So it's playable, though black has many good responses to it. Knight f6, here e5. This is now transposing into the two knights defense. So it's actually a proper Scotch gambit. The other way that this can usually shake out, well, there's a couple, but for a lot of Italian players, this is the move you'd want to play, so that if white tries to get their pawn back using this trick, you can transpose directly into old Italian theory, where black is doing pretty well. And here there's also theory after this move, and then d5, and there's both bishop b5 and bishop e2, and a lot of theory there as well, but the main point is this is what most people who are used to playing the Italian should do when they face this Scotch gambit, because it'll get them into positions that they are probably more familiar with. I should point out that after c3, taking the pawn leads to this very familiar double attack, where white exposes the black king, regains the material, and has an initiative. Anyway, none of this happened, and instead they went into the main line of this opening. Bishop b5, knight e4, takes, bishop d7, takes, and castles. This is all still theory, and there's lots more moves of it to come. Bishop e7 is one line, c5 I think is an option, and bishop c5 I think is one of the more common options. Bishop e7 though, as I said, and then f3, using the placement of this knight as a way to accelerate the attack using the f-pawn, because if, as you saw in the starting position, or the position we started with, if the pawn comes up to f6, it can be very dangerous for black's king if they castle that way. And generally speaking, they do. So knight g5, knight c3 played so that if, or I should say after this knight is kicked by f4 and it comes back to e4, white can just chop, take it, and ruin the structure even further. Though I will say that I think more standard in this position is just to go f4 immediately and chase the knight. Implications would be slightly different if the bishop were on this diagonal, because then there'd be a pin, and then after the move f4 there'd be both knight e4, which is I think the main move, but also knight e6, trying to use the pin. I've actually had games in that position. Anyway, or a very similar position I should say. So knight c3 was played, castles, and f4. Knight e6, f5 with tempo, and this is where it becomes problematic for black. White's getting this big attack with the f-pawn just by chasing the knight. So takes, rook to b8. Rook b8 doesn't really pose any threat, and it's a little bit too slow, so white's immediately able to strike on the king side with f6, which is the strongest move. If we back up here, this is definitely a moment where black needs to have a pretty big sense of urgency, I would say, and already white's attack is pretty dangerous. So I think it's time to take some prophylactic measures and at least be able to have the move bishop f8 in reserve. So rook e8 strikes me as fairly sensible. Now if f6, I think you can just go bishop f8, and this is not actually that bad. Like the bishop on g7 will cover a lot of the key weaknesses. The queen is able to cover a lot of these squares as well, and black should be able to mount a defense, not to mention the pawn on e5 is a bit loose. So this would slow down the attack considerably, so white wouldn't take on g7 in this case. In this case, they would figure out a way to finish their development. There's a lot of sneaky moves. Bishop g5 looks pretty irritating, actually. But at minimum, you can play a pretty ugly move like g6, where at least here you're not going to get mated because your bishop covers these dark squares. Okay. A lot of explanation, but I think that's basically what black should have done. Give this option of keeping the bishop to protect the mating square on g7. It's actually fairly typical. So f6, bishop b4, and now white's able to just ignore completely what black is doing on the queen side. Queen h4 is a tricky move. It's pretty good. White could have started with this move, asking if black really wants to give up their dark squared bishop and get mated over here. Probably they'd have to say yes to that because there's not really a ton of good squares the bishop can go back to. If it goes to a5, then the queen can just do the same thing it did in the game. Of course, here you do have to be careful about the threat of the pin. But okay, queen h4 takes. The funny thing is the best move could have been played in this position, and it would have been even more aesthetically pleasing, I think. But first, white just took back, and there's really no way to stop what's coming. So after rook e8, we get our key position where it's white to play. It's actually a forced mate in a few, but I really just would like you guys to see the first couple of moves. So hopefully you guys like this puzzle, and I will see everyone tomorrow as we move on to the harder puzzles of the week. Thank you for watching.